come down to cities or when we talk about urbanization, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that Pakistanis have progressed quite a lot. You know, you go to Blue Area, you see all of these buildings, you know, you see these high-tech innovations coming in, and everybody's very happy about that. But one way or the other, I believe that all of this newer tech coming in, you know, with urbanization, with, you know, ordering food over the phone, getting groceries over the phone is making us more lazier. And do you think that's the right lifestyle? Is something which we'll be talking about. But first, we have a small report to share with you guys all. So please go ahead, take a look, and once you guys will come back, we have the right people to kind of talk about whether urbanization is making us lazy or not, and what to do about it.
Regular physical activity of moderate intensity, such as walking, cycling or doing sports, has magnificent benefits for the health. The bicycle contributes to a cleaner air and less congestion and makes education, healthcare and other social services more accessible to the most vulnerable populations. Cycling Sundays are part of the urban innovation broader advocacy work on the need for reimagining and reclaiming the urban public realm. Using cycling and active mobility as a call to action, these events are aimed at enabling a greater conversation on how we use space in cities. Urban innovation in partnership with Islamabad Capital Territory Administration, Islamabad Cycling Association, Islamabad Traffic Police, Grana.com and European Union Delegation to Pakistan organizes Cycling Sunday on the first Sunday of each month. There are cycling and fun activities for all the family members. It especially encourages children and women to join Cycling Sunday. Organizers are committed to collaborative efforts promoting reduced vehicular dependence, safer roads and streets, and greater freedom of choice when it comes to mobility and recreation. According to WHO, safe infrastructure for walking and cycling is a pathway for achieving greater health equity. For the poorest urban sectors who often cannot afford private vehicles, walking and cycling can provide a form of transport while reducing the risk of heart disease, stroke, certain cancers and diabetes.
Wow, so I believe that we have already given it all away as well, ladies and gentlemen. We're lucky that we've actually been joined by people who came up with this idea of urban innovation, and not just that. You know, they came up with this idea of Cycling Sundays, where, you know, the first Sunday of every single month will be a Cycling Sunday, and people will kind of ride their bicycles from the World Center till Detox, which I believe is not long distance as well, and everybody can kind of contribute if you have this consciousness in you that, you know, you really need to do something fruitful, you really need to do something for the betterment of the people of the community or the society as well. And not just that, obviously Islamabad Traffic Police, European Union, Grana, you know, all of these people are venturing together to make sure that this project becomes a success. And we're lucky that we've actually been joined by guests who are joining hands and the people who are actually behind urban innovation as well. So first things first, ladies and gentlemen, we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be the head of political section, the delegation of European Union of Pakistan. He is the one and only Mr. Daniel Klaus. Hi, Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Very good, very good.
Wonderful to have you. The pleasure is all ours. Thank you very much for taking our time.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. And alongside Mr. Daniel, ladies and gentlemen, the gentleman who came up with this idea of urban innovation. And to be very honest, over here in Pakistan, this is for the very first time that any media house or any channel is actually going to talk about urban innovation. In fact, earlier, we never knew that, okay, urban innovation can actually bring quite a lot of changes within how we look physically. Because if you're going to cycle almost every Sunday of the month, I think you're going to feel great. You're going to feel just like how Daniel feels, because he actually got his first car off the life just now when he came down to Pakistan. But why, that's a different story. But ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that we've actually been joined by the co-founder of Urban Innovation. He is Dr. Naveed Akhtar. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Ji, thank you, Ji. Thank you for inviting. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Sir, thank you very much for joining us. So are you guys matching with your partners as well? You know, so what's going on? You know, you guys look together.
Yes, we've been partner in Cycling Sunday, and we thought that it should match today.
Wow, it's wonderful. So, sir, first things first, you know, how did you come across this idea of urban innovation? And you know, that too in 2021, I think that countries have done it way before Pakistanis actually thought about it. So how did you come across this idea? Why do you think that this idea should be implemented, and what will be the benefits people will be reaping out of it?
Yeah. So I think you gave a very good background when you were talking about cities and urbanization, and particularly when you mentioned that Pakistan is rapidly urbanizing. Yeah. And I would say that Pakistan is one of the most rapidly urbanizing country in South Asia even. And so with that, you know, our cities are rising due to natural growth rate of cities and more rural-urban migration as well. Yeah. So for a long time, we thought that cities are all about engineering structures, cities are all about infrastructure, cities are all about roads, cars, buildings, you know.
Yeah.
So this urban innovation idea that I and the co-founder Sara Ahmed, we came up with this idea. The idea was to promote this, cause that cities are for people.
Yeah.
So we often say that cities are clusters of ideas, people, and firms. And similarly, we also have a motto that cities are for people.
Yeah.
And with that idea, and even I often say that, people come to cities with dreams, with aspirations.
Yeah.
And cities have to help people to achieve those dreams and aspirations.
True.
So our urban innovation idea is that how can we make cities better for people?
Yeah.
And it is often said that cities are engines of growth and prosperity. So the idea is that if you want to make cities as engines of growth or prosperity, or you want cities as centers of crime, despair, or poverty, it really depends on urban management and urban innovation.
True.
So our idea is that how can we bring innovation in urban management? How can we bring innovation in urban governance? How can we bring innovation in urban transportation so that cities become more friendly with people? And that's when we talk about people. For a long time, we thought that people means men only. So
Don't
urban
say that,
innovation.
please. We don't believe that.
So we don't actually, but many believe in Pakistan.
Yeah.
So the way we've developed our infrastructure, the way we develop our policies, that cities are friendly with healthy men only. So if there are women, if there are children, I always say that if a city is safer for women and children, then it is safer for everyone.
Exactly.
So with that, we need to bring innovation in urban design, we need to bring innovation in urban management. So that's where Sara Ahmed and I both are working, and we are partnering with different players, and we are trying to bring this message that we need to manage our cities better. And with the city management, for a long time, there was this discipline of urban planning, that was early 20th century discipline that we've been following for a long time. But now this is time that we focus more on city management.
All right.
So this is an area where we are focusing urban innovation with all other partners, and CyclingSunday is also part of this broader initiative of making our cities friendly with people.
Well, that's wonderful, and I think that you've given it all away for the better understanding of our audiences out there as well. But so very quickly, because you spoke about urban innovation and you kind of described it very well as well. So what I need to know is that you said that, we kind of need to talk about the city's management and how people really want to fulfill their dreams, and which is why they, in the first place, choose to come to the city as well. So how are you going to help them fulfill their dreams, talking about urban innovation in the first place? We will move down to, the cycling Sundays as well, number one. But number two, when we talk about city management, do you think that the management already which exists is not good?
Yeah, so that city management is a challenge for every country in the world. And that we need to recognize. This is not unique to Pakistan.
Right.
Every country in the world is struggling with city management. It doesn't mean that New York management, Paris management is perfect. So that's a continuous challenge actually.
Okay.
So what is the difference actually? The difference is, like in European cities, we see particularly that they've been focusing more on cities for people.
Yeah.
So they are making management people-centric. So we need to shift that focus towards making management people-centric. And there is a lot of research, advocacy happening in those cities. So there has not been much momentum on that side. We thought that city management is the function of administration. City management is a hierarchical system that comes through the government systems. So we've not been developing many civil society coalitions, academic institutions engagement, working towards city management. So that's the where I think urban innovation comes in. We bring in research, we bring in expertise in this field. And the city management, the kind of in Pakistan, we are working closely with the city managers, with the political leadership, like Rawalpindi Development Authority chairman. We are working with Islamabad Capital Territory Administration. So I would say that's an ongoing phenomenon.
Yeah,
and yes, there are challenges, but we need to make that better over the time.
Oh, it's wonderful. And ladies and gentlemen, it is through public-private partnership that things will get better as well. And I truly believe in what Naveed has to say as well. But very quickly, now moving on to Daniel. So Daniel, since obviously we haven't spoken about the Cycling Sundays as of yet, but talking about city management and urban innovation, how are things, in terms of urban innovation when we talk about Europe?
Actually, there is a huge shift that has taken place in the last 10, perhaps 20 years in Europe. And I've seen that. I've lived in different cities across Europe, and really this people-centered approach, you can see it sometimes very consciously applied.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just happens because you have people who reclaim the space. So you have neighborhood associations who say, once a month we close our street and we transform the street into a playground for the kids where we can hang out together, etc. And initiatives like that are picking up more and more, and so city governments are more and more saying, okay, what do really our people in our city need? What do they need in terms of services? How can we make sure that everybody has access to these services? But also, how do we use urban space? Should urban space be used largely as a car park? Or should we use it for cafes, for playgrounds, for spaces where people can just walk around, meet friends and others? Right, so that's really happening. So if you have been in a European city, let's say 20 years ago, I encourage you to come back once COVID, etc., is under control, and have a look, because you will see a lot of difference.
Exactly. And ladies and gentlemen, that truly is a thought-provoking question, that whether you want to use these spaces for car parks or probably, you know, a place for kids to kind of ride their bicycles or play football or do anything whatever they want to do. And this is something which I've always wanted to kind of talk about but never got an opportunity to. So today I'm actually going to talk about it. Number one, so every other, you know, before this incumbent government actually took over, you know, it was so difficult. You go to a government official, or you know, you kind of need to do something, you know, probably if it's a property transfer. You know, so you'll go to his office, he'll be kind of very lazy about, you know, kind of doing your work, and then you'll kind of have to make a few phone calls as well, and then you'll be like, so what the people within the government offices were doing before this government took over was that, you know, they were kind of creating problems for other people which were coming in, and then they'll be like, okay, sir, this document is missing, this document is missing. One way or the other, you know, you'll actually have to go to that office 5 or 10 times, that eventually you'll give up. You'll be like, you know what, I do not actually want to go to them because they're not talking about how it's going to be easier for me. Rather, they want those papers to be in those files as well. So, sir, I believe that you guys are doing a great job in those terms as well, where the policies and the management really need to be people-centric. Thank you very much for coming up with this thought, and this was something which we needed in Pakistan. Now, coming down to, you know, how urban innovation kind of thought about cycling Sundays and what benefits are we going to reap from cycling Sundays, and how do you think that it's going to change the image within the society as well, and how people are responding to that?
So let me share with you some background that what you have been observing, and all of us are facing actually a challenge in Pakistan cities, is deteriorating air quality in Pakistan.
True.
And you know, 30 to 35% that air quality deterioration is caused by you know, motorized vehicle emissions. So over the time, when urbanization is rapidly increasing, because we didn't have any good, robust public transportation system, so reliance on personalized motorized vehicles is increasing, whether these are cars or motorbikes actually. So that is actually, the air quality is rapidly, you know, that sort of deteriorating. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that over the time, what we have actually felt that, you know, there are not many healthy recreation activities in cities.
True.
So these were the two, you know, just sort of our diagnostic, that where we came up with this idea that how can we promote active mobility in cities, how can we give this message, we need to move towards sustainable cities, and with that sustainability we need to focus on transportation. And when we talk about transportation, then it does not mean cars, you know. It means how people can move from one place to another place. And we actually, I often tell to people that there are only 10% households in Pakistan who own cars. But when you talk about cities, it would look like everyone has a car. And the reason is because policymakers have cars. And they always think about roads. And so this idea was that how can we give a message? We need to promote sustainable, active mobility in our cities. That's the first thing. The second thing, that as Daniel mentioned, that, you know, in European cities, anywhere in the world, it's the people who reclaim spaces. And these roads are public spaces. Over the time, our streets, our roads have been encroached by cars, and these used to be public spaces. If you go to the older parts of our cities, in Lahore, in Raja Bazaar, you'll see that people sitting in streets, and that was our culture. So over the time, you know, cars came in, and that culture, you know, went away. So we thought that we need to reclaim public spaces, and we started with Islamabad's Jinnah Avenue to give this message across the country. And the idea is that how can people come together, they can engage in recreation, healthy activities as well. And I'll tell you, when we close this road for cars with the support of Islamabad administration as well as Islamabad police, so I'll tell you interesting things. Sometimes, you know, some women show up at that event, and they say that they haven't cycled since their childhood. And they heard about this event, and they just thought that they can enjoy, you know, freely safe space, because cycling is not safer in our cities. You know, pedestrians are not safe in our cities. So the only safer spot is, you know, that car parking for cars, or, you know, driving for cars. So what we gave this message.
Even at that time, you're actually worried if somebody's going to take your car or it's still going to be there.
So what we wanted to give this message, that how we need to, you know, respect pedestrians. We need to take care of safety of cyclists as well. So some people resist to this idea, and I want to drive car, I don't want to come to cycle. So I always say to them, you don't need to come to cycle. Our message is, people who are already cycling, you know, take care of them.
Yeah.
So there are so many people who cycle in Pakistan, even as of today.
Exactly.
So this Cycling Sunday provides an opportunity, and it gives a message, broader message, that we need to make our cities more sustainable. And second, it provides, you know, more vibrant public spaces. Cities are known by their public spaces.
True.
You know, if you go to Europe, you want to go to hang out at a square, you want to go at a cafe, you want to go at a, you know, gallery or a mall where, you know, people are hanging around. So with that, I also tell that tourism is all urban phenomenon.
Yeah.
So right now, this government is also focusing a lot of tourism. So I think such events are also good for urban tourism as well.
Wow.
For local people, so many diplomats join our events, and they come, they say that, you know, this is the place, they want to be part of it. And this vibrancy of public spaces, how can we reclaim public spaces? And the second message is sustainability through active mobility. So these are the two key messages. What really, you know, excites us is participation of women and children in this event.
Wow, that's wonderful. So, ladies and gentlemen, the key two messages, you've actually got your hands onto that as well. But very quickly, let me move on to Daniel once again. So now, obviously, they have a lot of partners, you know, Islamabad Traffic Police, Capital Territory Police, you know, and all of these people and organizations are playing a wonderful role, which is where European Union comes in. And, you know, so what's your motive behind collaborating with urban innovation, that, hey, you know what, everybody needs that kind of space as well, and this is the way forward, or probably in collaboration with the SDGs, you know, so how is European Union thinking in terms of supporting this concept of urban innovation?
Yeah, so the European Union has been in Pakistan for several decades, and we're working on a lot of fields. We saw this initiative of urban innovation, the Islamabad Cycling Association, and we saw the Cycling Sunday, and we thought that's such a nice, small, and very sort of friendly and open initiative. We want to support that because it resonates with so many things that the European Union has been working on and is more and more working on, especially when it comes to climate change and sustainability, women's empowerment, local governance, etc. We said, okay, that's perfect. We want to support that, and at the same time, we want to make sure that it continues to be a local initiative run by local organizations, by people like Naveed and Urban Innovation to make it happen. And I think for me personally as well, right, it was quite an experience because, as you mentioned earlier, coming to Islamabad, first time in my life that I buy a car.
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
And actually, usually you would say, oh, finally he has a car, so now he is free to go wherever he wants. For me, that was more a certain sign of defeat, right? Because I for the first time, I had to acknowledge I need a car to get on with my life, right? In my previous life, I was okay with cycling, walking, taking public transport. Here I need a car. And at the same time, I think Islamabad is such an amazing space, an amazing city for cycling and walking, right? On the one hand, you have the Magala Hills, you can go hiking, you can go cycling, and that's kind of, I would say, for the weekend to enjoy and have a good time. But even the city is built in a way that, or I believe that the original designers thought a lot of the stuff you can do it on foot or by bike, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the whole block structure is built around having a markaz close by, so you can get what you need, and a park, etc. And there's a lot of space. So compared to other cities which are crowded and where it's difficult to get to the next shop, etc., Islamabad is very close to a very sustainable model because you could do most of the stuff to get on with your daily life on foot and by bike. But as Naveed mentioned, cars have taken over so much the logic. So people, even if it's just for 200 meters, they will get into their car, right? So I think for the European Union, that was a little bit the idea to say we are really focusing very much on how to prevent and how to deal with climate change.
Yeah.
There's the so-called European Green Deal, right, where we do all kinds of things to get Europe being carbon neutral by 2050. And we want to support countries like Pakistan to also get in this direction, and so the initiative for Cycling Sunday was perfect.
Exactly, and the best part, ladies and gentlemen, for Pakistan is that we're definitely not a major contributor towards climate change as well. So this is one thing which we really need to keep in mind. But yes, we do have a lot of impact to the countries around us as well. But before I move on, there's two more interesting things which I wanted to kind of ask, and that number one, so how is it driving around now? Do you think it's better? Because it's hard out these days.
Yeah, of course. I mean, now these days, sort of to get around from meetings to meetings, etc., doing that on foot or bike would impossible. So it's okay to have a car. I'm also enjoying it, but it's more the fact that
there was this sad element that
there was a sad element. It's in a way a loss of freedom, and I need another tool to get on with my life.
Well, it's wonderful. And there was this other question which I actually asked before the show as well, so I think I'm not going to repeat that one. But move back to Mr. Naveed, Dr. Naveed Sahab over here. So now, sir, but I have a very, I think this makes sense, this question which I'm going to pose towards you, and that is that you talk about, kind of claiming public spaces as well, which I believe is great because, once you have that ownership, you feel great, you feel wonderful, and that's what cities are developed for, and that's what you said. But imagine that, Islamabad being the only city where we do have bicycle lanes. You go across Magla Road, it's very well written, it's a bicycle lane. And people will eventually realize that, hey, you know what, we really do not need to take our car into the bicycle lane. That's number one. Number two, the Islamabad sector, just like Daniel said, is actually planned in a way where within every sector we have at least one or two parks. And just around that we have a bicycling or a walking track as well. So why do we need to go outside to Blue Area, claim a public space, kind of create hindrances for, a lot of cars out there, rather than going to a park or a bicycling lane, which is dedicated for cycling?
So before answering to your question, I would invite everyone to join us on the coming Sunday, on our Cycling Sunday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yep.
And we'll be looking forward to meet all of you. And with that question, I'll come back to your question that you were saying that Islamabad is relatively more cycle friendly.
Yeah.
So Islamabad's weather is relatively more cycle friendly.
These days it's not though.
Yeah.
That's what
so
but 6 to 9 is fine.
Yeah.
6 to 9 is fine.
6 to 9 is fine. So relatively, there are more cyclists in other cities as compared to Islamabad.
Okay.
So I'll just give you one example that this Urban Innovation organized another event in Raja Bazaar, Sarafa Bazaar.
All right.
And that we were thinking
Pindi
that
or Lahore?
in Pindi.
Achha, okay.
So we were thinking that because when we do it in Islamabad, we also arrange rental bikes for people. Most of people come and they rent their bikes there. Bikes are available there. So we've arranged that. But when we organized in Raja Bazaar, everyone came with their own bicycle. Wow. So there was like 250 kids cycling in that Raja Bazaar. So we often call in this urban discipline, these cyclists are invisible, they are there, but we can't see them. So Islamabad's actually roads are very dangerous for cycling. Okay. So they are not, friendly because the speed is, because we have these signal-free corridors, we have these, wider roads. So they give you a sense of, that you need to drive more, with a high speed. Yeah. And so in other cities, relatively, there is a congestion, cars are slower. So cycling is relatively safer.
And the guys are smarter.
Guys are smarter,
Kids are smarter these days as well.
So with that, I would say that, ultimate our goal is to have dedicated cycling lanes. And with that, we need to promote public transport as well, because they both go together, Exactly. And we need a robust system of public transport. I often advocate, like someone living in Barako, how would they travel? They probably will not be able to come by bicycle, but they need to have a bus where they can hang out, where they can hang their bicycle on that bus, and when they drop at Blue Area, then they can drive bicycle to F6 or F7, wherever they want to go. So they are actually complementary. So we need to move towards dedicated bicycle lines, one. And second, we need to have more wider, footpaths in Islamabad, more well-maintained. The investment that CDA has been doing in parks and roads, they also need to shift that investment towards, walkways as well. Exactly. So we need to promote, walking culture, cycling culture, we need to have more public transport for Islamabad citizens. So then it will go together actually.
And it's wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. It was wonderful to be in conversation where we talked about sustainability through mobility and claiming public spaces, even if we have dedicated bicycling lanes, ladies and gentlemen. On the 4th of July, please make sure to be a part of this Cycling Sunday, and it's going to be from 6 p.m. till 9 p.m. You can rent a bicycle. Hey, were you thinking that you do not have a bicycle? What are you going to do? Well, we have it sorted for you. Thank you very much for joining us.